Hello, hello, hello. Here we are back again. Kim and Joanna talking about being disruptive by design. All things manifestor, about, with, and for. This is all for you girls, all for you female manifestors out there. Today, episode number 3, we're going to talk about initiate, recharge, repeat. How manifestors thrive in relationships. So welcome. We're diving into what it means to be a manifestor in relationships. We're typically known as lone wolves, and we're going to talk all about that with real world examples. Not knowing who we are, we have a tendency to either step back because we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid we're going to be too much, until guess what? We explode. So let's don't do that. These are real life situations, my examples, Joanna's examples, and we're very, very different. So join us, grab a coffee, have a seat, come home. And if you enjoy what you hear, invite your manifestor girlfriends to join us as well. Leave comments below, and if you have questions, we would love to answer them. And then like and share us with others. You will find transcripts and summaries of today's podcast below. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what comes up today. Hello, Joanna. Welcome back to episode number 3 of Being Disrupted by Design. Excuse me, I just talked right over you.
No.
But it's so hysterical because I want to share with the audience quickly that some of the things we were talking about before we got started, which I haven't even followed up on. And that's why I love this podcast, because we're here just to share with other women what it's like to be a manifestor. And we each, even though our type is manifestor, have so many different qualities that make us each such individuals. For example, we're not talking about our authority, but being splenic. I just said I was going to set the timer, and then I was reading where we are in our transits right now, because transits impact manifestors. Did I set the timer? Absolutely not. Thank you, audience, for being so diligent and bearing with us, because we're going to go ahead and set that right now so we have an idea of what we're doing. And this is what it's like being a manifestor.
Yep. Absolutely.
So episode number 3. And episode number 3, again, repeating myself. Basically, we've kind of talked about what it means, like when you discover human design, and we've kind of highlighted like different types to give everybody a little bit of an idea, and why we're together doing this, and why it's important for both of us. Because, and I'll speak for myself, because discovering I was a manifestor was like, oh my goodness, I'm not broken. It was that understanding, as we've discussed already, that we're just different. We're a small percentage and we're different, and we're looking to fit in to a wheel that we really aren't supposed to fit into. Like, in order for us to do our piece and to show up so that the rest of the wheel continues to turn, we get to stop trying to be something we're not and be who we are here to be. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, is taking that information that we've already shared in the first 2 episodes and talking about what it feels like when you step into the awareness that you're a manifestor. I mean, like, well, what is that? What does that mean? And so I would love to hear, I'd just love for you to share, like, can you think of things that have shifted when you bring your awareness back to go, oh, that's because I'm a manifestor? Is that true for you, or is that just me?
It's true for me in many ways. I'll use a couple examples. At home, or around people who know me. I recently experienced it because I had a group of friends around me that have known me for over 40 years.
Wow. Okay. Great. So they got to see, like, okay, cool.
We're sisters from other mothers, right? And we were placed into a situation for our dear friend who was getting married that required us to help her out to do some final arrangements and just decorations and stuff.
Sure.
it was definitely a hectic situation. And I just saw what needed to be done and
Mm,
started to initiate in full throttle. I also realized there was this undertone, again, undertone of, I don't know, anger or frustration.
mm-hmm.
Um, because in my mind, in my heart, I felt it could have been preventable.
Mm.
And I wasn't necessarily hearing some other people's ideas.
Wow. Okay.
And I was in a completely initiating to land the plane and everything else.
Right.
And but I took a moment and I sensed the energy in the room was shifting because of how I was initiating. It was almost like we were back in high school. I don't know, decorating a homecoming float, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I noticed one of my friends started to kind of push back or react, and another one was like, she's just doing her thing, like just let's whatever.
Right.
And then I saw others who, let's say, were not as close to me, staff at the hotel and stuff, just starting to follow. And I'm not saying
Mm.
my friends don't, but like they were very aware I was in my space to initiate, to orchestrate, to come together. And then the thing that really took me back was at a certain point, I was not needed there anymore.
Oh, okay. Can we
And
stop there?
yes, yes,
Can we, okay.
yes,
I don't want to cut you off, but
yes. No, no, no,
you
no, no,
always
no.
bring up so many key points
Yes, I
that I
was not
think,
needed there anymore. And that was a big shift for me. I went up to my hotel room
oh,
because I couldn't physically, it was not a new thing, but I was like, I'm really freaking tired right now. I'm starting to get more angry, that undertone,
mhm.
because I'm getting depleted. So it was almost like a signal. And I went like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna regenerate.
Okay.
Anyways,
Okay.
sorry.
No, 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 no. This is so beautiful, but I want to break this down for our audience because I
Yes,
want them
yes,
to
please.
understand like,
Yes.
okay, so I'm going to just recap what I just heard you say. So you're with a group of women that have known you for 40 years.
Hmm.
You have just discovered, who you are in the last year, and you're just stepping into some of this. I know it's been a little bit longer than that, but you're really just
Mm.
beginning to step into it because it takes a minute to kind of integrate some of this new information as opposed to just learning it, like just consuming information, like to bring it into your life. And I love your awareness. So you became aware that you were initiating. And yes, anger is our what they call our not self theme. And that anger is to support us. We've talked about this, I believe, in one of the first episodes about how we use anger. We think that anger is a bad thing. It's really just like, here's your sign. Here's your
Mm.
sign. Um,
Perfect.
and it's like, okay, why am I angry? And you said because you were in initiating, but also I love the fact you said because you were aware that it could have been handled better and some of the conflict could have been avoided. So I want to ask you this question because I think this is part of the integration into what we understand. You said it was almost like we are back in high school. So I want to just ask you this one question. Do you feel like when you were younger that you were actually more yourself?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So
Yes.
that's my experience too. Like when I was younger, I actually acted more like a manifestor before I got into the world, and I was conditioned into believing that my way of doing things wasn't working because of the resistance from other people.
Hmm.
And that is our strategy as a manifestor to inform. We're here to
Hmm.
initiate. And I love the fact that you said that your friends were giving you pushback because they were not accepting who the spin around the okay, I was this and I was doing this and things were working, and then as I went through the world and got in the corporate world and had a family and did all of these things, I basically like conditioned myself into not being a manifester. And this awareness, I suddenly stepped into it because you could see. So I want to ask you one more question, and then I want to wrap up that third point you made because it was so perfect. Was there something that stopped you from initiating before? Like here, what I mean by that is like you're saying that you saw how things could have been handled differently.
Mm-hmm.
Was there something that kept you from like maybe calling up your friend and saying, hey, can I support you on this?
Uh,
Hey,
yeah, no, I had actually done that multiple times.
and there was
And
resistance.
yes. Um, and I knew the situation well enough
Right.
and her well enough to know that she wasn't going to receive it. And
Okay.
it was though from a place of my self-integrity
Mm-hmm.
that I continue to offer because she's like a sister, right? If that were in a corporate setting,
Right.
like if I were supporting a leader or a team,
Right.
and the same approach I've taken is I'm watching you walking into a disaster.
Okay.
And
Yes.
after a point, when someone goes, we hear you, it's not happening, we can't do that, you have to release it. And I've pushed in the past and been
Right.
told, stop pushing.
Okay.
Like,
So,
meaning like it's not happening, or I hear you, but thank you for your input, dismissed. Right. So that's the stuff that starts to whittle at you a little, for me,
right.
right? Because you don't feel heard or accepted. And it's your ego
Sure.
sometimes,
Sure.
right? Uh, but as I've gotten older, or a weary warrior, um, I just go, oh, well, I guess I'm going to get my hazmat suit. That's what I'm preparing for. And you literally start to shift into, okay, well, that's where we're going. So now I'm prepared and I'm waiting. I'm waiting to initiate again, right?
Okay. Okay. So when I go back over it, so we talked about like you realize that like you were actually acting more like yourself, that the way you used to act when you were young. And these
Mhm.
relationships, and this is why it's so important, because in episode number 4, we're really going to talk about relationships and marriages and
Mhm.
families and how we kind of get out of being who we are when we aren't using some of the tools that we get to know as a manifester. And so you said, hey, can I support you on this, several times, and there was like, here's the hand. So this is the thing about, I love the hand signals that keep coming up on the computer. Here's the thing. So as a manifester, we are here to initiate and inform. However, not everything that we want to initiate is going to land. It's just
Mhm.
it's not going to be received. And so this is where, I get a lot of questions and people ask me like, so what's okay, like informing, okay, I'm going to do this and you're going to do this. No, that's not really what that is. So informing is I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and allowing other people to do A, B, C if that's what they want to do. And when that initiating energy, if there is just general, ooh, I'm getting some feedback. If there's just general resistance, that's a great opportunity for us to step back and go, looking
Yeah.
at this from a different way. And so I hear that you did that. And then I hear that when the time crunch came, and see, this is the thing about it, as a manifester, we aren't aware of our energy. I saw the coolest video where it showed how impactful we can be, where it was a little girl skipping down the thing and this guy walks by. And then for some reason, there was a camera overhead. And after the little girl has already walked by from skipping and everything, the guy starts skipping. See, that's what we don't understand about our energy and our
Yeah.
impact. And sometimes
Yeah.
that resistance is because people don't know what we're about to do. And so that's
Hmm.
where informing comes in. Hey, I'm going to do this, so that they have a better way because they can feel the energy. It's like I tell all my friends that are manifestors, you don't have to acknowledge who you are, but your energy walks into the room before you do. It's just
Mm.
there. It's going to be
Hmm.
felt. And we all know what that's like. If you go, well, I don't really know about feeling other people's energy. I want you to think about when you were in line at some store and somebody got too close behind you and you could feel it, or you felt pressured because somebody else was doing something faster and you felt like you had to pick it up and you had to do this, or the person in front of you was slower and you wanted to get in, and you could feel the push. So we can feel each other's energy, and as a manifestor particularly, it comes in before we do. So coming back to the last point, which is so cool, you said that you were attributing your anger to the fact, like, okay, it's not mine to finish. Like, I'm so excited you said that, because that is the key thing to burnout for manifestors. We are non-sacral energy beings, which means that we cannot keep going. And we are here to initiate and start something. And you said, like, the hotel, like the people that were working to make it happen were responding to your initiation and making it happen.
Because no one else was.
And see, and that's what's
It's really interesting. It's the energy part you keep mentioning too, because that's one of the hardest things to I'm not going to say manage, that's the first word that came to my head, to be aware of, right? Is, let's say, those initial ideas or suggestions at work, with a spouse, with a friend, with a child, are not received. For me, then the next time I show up, I'm showing up with a little bit of anger, a little frustration, right? Because here we go again, right? And you're right. And then all that does is either make people feel smaller, or they feel shame or resistance because they're being told what to do, or they perceive it as such. And then again, it's like little cuts that continue for someone like me, I guess, because I'm highly emotional, period, regardless of what, forget human design. I'm a highly emotional person. And that impacts me. And then it just, so again, learning to release it and coming in, it's so different. And it was so different, let's say, when I came back to the room after I had rested. The rest of the team that was helping, they needed to go rest. And then it was me and the staff. And it was amazing how it worked.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that staff is used to, and in no way, but there had to be, so there was a timeline. This is professionally what they do. They had a countdown of, the event is happening in 2 hours. We have so much to do. And it was that point, they were like, move over, let the pros come in. And I'm not saying I'm the pro, but I'm saying that was a lot easier for me to work with at that point.
Okay, but I want to stop you right there, because this, I think, is very, very important for people to hear. So I don't know about you, but when someone asked me recently, I'm trying to remember, it doesn't matter, but they said, so how did you feel when you first discovered you're a manifestor? And I'll be dead honest here. The first instinct is, oh, I'm part of that. I'm part of that special thing. And you shared this in one of our other episodes. And 2 seconds later, it's like, oh, fudgesicle. No wonder I feel like I'm swimming upstream all the time.
All the time.
So we're going to talk about this in our next episode, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But with the staff, you got to operate as a manifestor. With our friends, with people that know us, especially just after we discover this. And that's why I ask you, like, do you feel like you were operating more closely to who you are when you were younger, before you went out into the world and you found out, ooh, people don't like that? Because that's our big thing. Like, we manifestors have a closed, repelling aura, and it's for our protection. It's for us to create boundaries around our energy. And boundaries are about connection. Because in order to create a boundary, we have to be completely honest about what we want. And see, manifestors, generally speaking, and I'll speak for myself, we're sneaky. We talked about this. We don't want to be stopped. We don't want to be questioned. We can't explain our creative process. We just want you to get the F out of our way because we don't trust. It's like it takes longer for me to tell you how to do it than I could just do it. Just move. So we become sort of devious. I love it. You said once, I remember I was talking about this and you said, well, we embellish. Yes, we embellish the fact that we're not going to tell you what we're doing. Go. And that backfires. But when we're with people that have gotten accustomed to us being a certain way and reacting a certain way, anytime we begin to shift, and this is like the basis of my work, this is why relationships are challenging, because people know us a certain way and that's who they want us to be. And when we change, it's threatening to other people.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are we fighting ourselves because we're trying to change patterns that we've been doing for a long time, but then other people are like, don't do that. Don't. And they may not say that directly, but they try to put us back into a place that's comfortable for them. So it often is more challenging to show up in very familiar relationships with this new awareness, practicing that. But and you said, but I'm not the pro, but here's the thing. Going back to what I said initially, it's like, yay. And then it's like, oh, yeah. We often, especially in the workforce, have this, like, in my experience anyway, as women, have this concept that like, I don't want to be the bitch. It's masculine energy. We've talked about that. And so how do I use this? So understanding what your limitations are, but also owning the piece I just said a minute ago. It's not like we are any more important than anyone else. And if we aren't
trying to take anyone's light.
No, and it can be perceived that way, but we also get to learn how to step into that and go, no, this is my piece of the puzzle. I can't fit into this piece over here because I don't have the right shapes. But if I don't do this piece, if I don't step up, if I don't initiate, if I don't inform, then the other people don't have their pieces. Like the whole puzzle is like out of place and you can't make it all work together. So this is a struggle for me personally, because it's like, wow, okay, so I'm supposed to initiate and lead. And I've had so many examples where I would just say, this is what I'm going to do. And suddenly everybody is like, okay, well, we're doing this. And it becomes like a group rule or it's adopted, because also as manifestors, people often copy us. Like if you ever notice, you'll make a suggestion and you said this, and you may get resistance and they go, no, I'm not going to do that. And then like a day later, they're just doing it.
Yes.
Without sharing with you.
There's a lot. Yes.
Was that true in this event? Because I know it was a wedding. So
not so much. Yes, it was.
Did you notice people suddenly doing things that you suggested without making a big deal about it, but just noticing?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the part is about acknowledging other people's inputs when you're in that, what you had described of get out of my way, I'm initiating. It's not placating.
Right.
It's actually enabling you by acknowledging someone. It just could be basic decorum to just say, I agree, that's a good idea. So let's continue. Like again, I think that's the part that maturity, self-awareness, and all that helps you stop to continue on whatever path you as a manifestor are on, right? Because if you don't, to your point, I communicated it, I reached out, I validated, but the part that like yes, they continued to do what I had originally said and suggested, and it all ended up great. And at the end, I think the part about being an initiator, I'm not always about the steps. I'm not about every single step and how it needs to be to the
Mm-hmm.
end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more about
You aren't
seeing
supposed
it
to be.
right. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you
Right.
want to like set
Right.
up a way and put all the red flowers in this vase and at this height, go to town. Yay, it's being done. I'm off to create another station to
Right.
get all this done. I'm
Bravo.
talking to the staff to do this because that's where I have shown the brightest.
Because that's what
And
you're here to
then
do.
right. And then some people need that light to get them through it
Okay.
and all of that. Yeah.
The timer just went off, so we get to kind of wrap it up because I was so
Okay.
engrossed in what you were saying. But this is what I heard for our audience.
Yes.
I heard you doing a beautiful example. That is exactly why we're here. We are here to initiate. We see something, and the reason often in my experience that we don't step up and initiate is because we think everyone else sees it too, and they don't. So when we take that step to initiate and inform, that it gives others something to react to. And I loved what you said about validating other people. Yes, I hear you. And just kind of keep moving. The big thing for me, and I think this is key for manifestors, is understanding that we aren't going to get that validation necessarily. And that's a big pill to swallow. When you suggest something, people say no, and then you turn around and they're doing it, and it's as if you had never said anything. And I think that's really key to understand. What I want to wrap this session up with, however, is what I see is this beautiful, happy energy where you're seeing all of this and you can list it and you can see how being a manifestor was this, this, and this. And you did X, Y, and Z because you understand now that this is important for you to rest, that anger is a key sign, that people don't have to do it your way, but that they are doing it your way. They're just not saying you're doing it your way. And you are giving them something to respond to. I don't know what all of your friends' types are. And the last thing is what's important is that you said awareness of the energy. That is what type is. That is our energetic aura. It's what we bring into a room.
Mm-hmm.
And so why I feel like human design and understanding if you're a manifestor, how to use that is so imperative. Because what I see right now is you have this sense of calm because you have this awareness of basically how the machine was working. And so it didn't become like personal rejection. It didn't become about you. It became, this is what I'm here to do. Okay, they don't want to do it that way. Oh, but they are doing it that way. Good. I'll go rest because then I come back, I have another project. That's what I heard you say. And
Yes. Yes.
that's what
Yes.
it means to be a manifestor and to step into who you are here to be so that it keeps the wheels turning. And
Mm-hmm.
let's tell the audience, so the wedding went well?
Like no little storm beforehand had happened. All the
Beautiful.
friends got along. There was no bitterness. It just flowed exactly. And it's about also letting small things go and just focused on why we are all together because those are such precious moments.
I, I love that. I just have to ask this last question and then we're going to stop. Do you
Oh,
believe
did
if
I
you,
tell you it was torrential raining too? They also moved the location of the wedding. It was yeah, it could have been a TV show. It could have been like one of those
okay, you're going to have to
reality
write
type of
about that and
things.
we'll
Yeah,
share that piece
yeah,
with the
it's
audience when they watch this. But the last question I have is, do you see a difference in knowing that you're a manifestor and understanding how your energy works than if you hadn't. For example, if you hadn't known that you needed to rest, if you hadn't understood that anger was a sign for you, if you hadn't realized that, hey, I'm making this suggestion, I'm informing, they aren't interested, would you have gone upstairs and rested
No,
before?
no, exactly. I would have plodded through it, probably shown up to the occasion in a different state of like the vibe you're sending out, right? Or not. I would have been drained. It wouldn't have been as pleasurable.
That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. That's why this gets to be all about fun. That's why I don't care if the audience knows I'm setting a timer. Thank you, Joanna. Always love talking to you, and I have so much fun doing this with you. And
likewise.
Like I said, we're going to be talking about in episode number 4, how this worked with your family. And then in episode number 5, we're really going to dive into the corporate world, because this is your golden apple, your area of expertise, how you've learned to navigate that world all these years, and how knowing your manifestor is beginning to shift that. So we have so much that I can't wait to share with the audience. But for today, we're going to say a tutela.
Adios.
Okay.
Let's wrap things up for episode 3, where we focused on how manifestors thrive in relationships. There was a lot we covered, but some of the key takeaways for me were that a manifestor's energy can significantly impact their relationships, especially with partners, co-workers, and family members who are not manifestors. We discussed some strategies and how important it is for manifestors to establish boundaries, expressing their needs, taking breaks, and allowing others to respond in their own time. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you and connecting with you. Please share this blog with your fellow manifestors, or leave a review, give us feedback. Your support helps us continue to create great content. As always, stay curious, stay inspired, and come home to your unique self.